Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're going to be covering the spring updates for 2026, generally looking at updating your workflows for various things. Today's agenda, we're going to be looking at those updates for Aware, then we'll move to Beacon, then we'll move to Strive. Let's start with Aware. That's me. Aware's had a really exciting few months, and as just a real fast, like 60,000 foot view, we've released our first feature set for AI scoring. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit with more coming in the fall. I'm also going to talk a little bit about updates we've made to student support management. And we also recently opened up QTI importing with custom banks. So we'll be hitting all of those as we go through the Aware journey today. Keep in mind that everything that I'll be talking about with Aware has had a dedicated webinar that is up on our YouTube channel. So if you did not attend that one, or didn't register so you could get the link to watch it, head to our YouTube channel and actually look up some of these. AI scoring in particular and the QTIs with custom banks have massive implications on execution and how you set it up and prepare for it. And we give a lot of really great tips. So use this and what I'm showing you today as a starting point, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things that are practice, which is not really the point of this webinar, but I do want you to go check out those webinars that have been done where we do get into the nitty-gritty of practice and how to think about execution. So earlier in the spring semester, we introduced AI scoring to Aware Premium. It's still a slim feature set, and we are working on expanding it, but it's out there and it's being used by districts today. AI scoring with Aware Premium is a data analysis solution that helps educators save time, score those ECRs, and provide feedback to students on those ECRs. Those are the main goals, and note, none of those goals included replace a teacher. It's about helping students and teachers with saving time and getting insight more quickly so that more time can be spent in that classroom with students doing those things that really matter. So, here are some general AI scoring guidelines. Like I said, I'm going to hit practice very briefly, but nitty gritty is on the full-fledged webinar we did several weeks back. Remember, we're in a beta phase with this release, and we're getting that feedback from you, and we're using it so that we can work on expanding our functionality as we go. All of that being said, even once we're out of the beta phase, there's going to be inherent benefits and consequences for using AI scoring. The first is the idea that AI scoring attempts to remove human judgment from the scoring experience, and AI scoring is not an exact science. There are a lot of various thoughts as to whether this is a good or bad thing, and without getting too deep into the weeds on philosophy, there's likely some things that you need to wrestle with and work through as a district before implementing any kind of feature like AI scoring. So to help with that, we've got a series of permissions that we've built into it. So at the district and test type level, you can help ensure that AI scoring is being used the way that you, as a district, think is best for your students and your community. Beyond that, there are also permissions at the test level and even the question level for you to get really nuanced in your level of control. For now, AI scoring is only available for constructive response questions, and even when moving into the near-term future, we're going to be expanding functionality still just for constructive response questions, so just a heads up there. AI scoring is currently focusing on TEA's STAR rubrics for extended constructive response. Our first release was focused on informational writing for grades 3 through English 2 only, and we chose that because informational writing was overwhelmingly used by TEA on the STAR test over the last few years. As such, we're controlling those rubrics in the system, and we won't give districts control over the rubrics themselves until we actually build out short constructive responses a little later on the roadmap. When using AI scoring, there are some things to keep in mind with how the solution works in just general. First, AI scoring is triggered and finalized by the teachers. This was done intentionally to ensure that a human is always in the loop when using AI scoring. Like we said, it is not an exact science, and even the best models and best processes mess things up pretty wildly from time to time. You probably have experienced this just from reviewing the STAR ECR scores that come from TEA over the last few years. Second, teachers are required to finalize and submit scores once they have been scored by AI scoring. This isn't a one click and it's done type solution. Ethically, we wanted to keep teachers in the loop throughout to guarantee that AI scoring was being monitored before the scores were posted to student records. Keep in mind that the test setting to disable access to enter answers will also suspend access to AI scoring for that assessment. This is critical for you to remember for those instances where you're giving a highly secure test that you do not want teachers in. And lastly, don't forget to turn on the student score summary. Our AI scoring solution includes a rationale and feedback that is given to that student, and they can actually see that when the score summary window is open. So what does all this actually look like? I won't be able to again show you the entire workflow right now, as this is just a quick summary, but please check out the AI scoring webinar. Let's say you have designed the assessment and you've actually administered that assessment as usual. After the assessment has been completed by the students, the teacher can go in and enter answers just as they would to score constructor responses without AI. After selecting a test, clicking enter answers and selecting their courses, the teachers can then get access to that magic score all AI CRs button. That button will go and grab all of the fully submitted constructor responses from students and then queue them up for scoring. There's no need to send them off one at a time. And the cool thing about that button is it will send off responses that haven't been scored anytime you click it. So hypothetically, let's say you have a class of 20 kids. 15 of them finish the test and hit submit. The teacher clicks that button, it'll score just those 15 kids that are done. Then the next day, the last five kids finish. The teacher comes back, clicks the exact same button again, and then it will score only those five students. AI scores, keep in mind, might take a while to populate. So when you click the button, coach your people, give it 5, 10 minutes, go do something else, come back and refresh your page, and then hopefully you'll see it. You can also leave the page and go do something else in Aware, anywhere in Aware, come back, see the scores after they've had some time to process. AI scoring is also restricted for resending to get scored again. Once it's scored, the score from the AI and the feedback and rationale that comes with it, they're saved and cannot be rescored by the AI, but they can be overridden by the teacher. We have done that on purpose so that the teacher, if there's reason to change the score, can do so and even modify the rationale before it is posted to the student record. As a safety and transparency measure, Eduphoria has also built various AI scoring statuses to help you know where you're at. And those statuses include scoring, an error status, and a scored status. The scoring status simply is, hey, it's in queue and it's being processed. Like I said, you can leave and come back, and it'll post once it's done. An error status indicates there was an error of some kind. I'm going to show you examples of error warnings here in just a second. And then scored indicates everything went smoothly, and this is the score. It's also worth noting that, like I said, the scores are editable. And if the teacher does edit it, but you need to go back, notice that revert button on the bottom right, on that right picture. That revert will actually put the AI score back if the teacher changed it and you wanted it to go back. So, what are those error codes? You might see unscorable, which is just a generic something technical happened. Cheating, which means something was detected that was unusual in the behavior in the response. Unprocessable is typically your blank responses, or something totally random. Then you have a lump of others like sexual content, self-harm, violence, harassment, illicit activities. Really, if there's language that is detected in any of those, it gets flagged as that. And keep in mind, an error flag doesn't mean anything is like reported somewhere or whatever else. It's simply an indication that a human eyeball is needed on this response. We've gotten feedback from some districts already that, hey, I've had an entire class worth of things flagged as violence, but that's because they were talking about a bully. Like the prompt was about bullying, and there was nothing wrong with the actual student responses. Sometimes those flags happen because it's really about keywords. So that's where that human contact, that human in the loop is really, really important every time. I want to pause for just a second and talk about disabling AI scoring as well. Since there will eventually be usage caps, there's going to be a need to turn off AI scoring should that cap start to approach and you want to conserve some for future district assessments. To do this, it does require you disable AI scoring at the test level. There is not an automatic cascade where if I turn it off at the district level, it turns it off for all of the tests down below. We did that for a couple of reasons, but the primary one is because we didn't want to put teachers into a potential error state that they couldn't get out of, where AI scores might have been in flight or queued up and never completed. So rather than blocking those and have them disappear into the ether, we made it so that it's an intentional decision that can be made to shut off for current and future assessments individually. If you turn it off at the district level after having it active for assessments for a while, AI scoring then could not be turned on for new assessments after that are created. Here's a list of just quick resources you can use for AI scoring in particular. You'll get these as live links. All of those are actually URLs. And so when you get this in a couple of days, feel free to use those links and look at them. But we've got a couple of blogs talking about ethics related to AI scoring, 10 important AI topics for educators to be thinking about, implementation steps, quick start guides, etc. Some of these things are really helpful if you haven't used AI scoring yet and want to with your district. So take a deep dive into those things once the webinar comes your way. All right, that's it for AI scoring. Let's talk about custom banks and importing QTI files. This has been something many districts have been asking about for a while. You purchase some curriculum that includes item banks, but you don't have anywhere to actually put those things. Well, now you do. You can get those items into our system if your curriculum vendor has supplied you with QTI packages. Now, this topic has some very specific caveats and technical requirements that I'm not going to get in super deeply today, but like I keep mentioning, go watch the webinar on custom banks and QTI importing. And we dig into the technicality and some of those things in that one as well. Custom banks are a varied assessment solution that helps educators to actually customize that assessment library with the things that you've been given by your vendor. You can then specify access permissions and import that third-party content. So managing and creating a custom bank is actually linked to a brand new right in the roles and rights portion of management. To get started, you must assign the manage custom banks right to the folks that you feel like needed in your district. Then to create your first bank, you actually find custom bank management under the item bank settings cog. You then, once you're in that UI, you click that button at the top I have here, create an item bank. And then you get the chance to start setting it up. You get to name it, set some of the access permissions. And keep in mind these access permissions that you see here, district, school, and teacher, they're broken up into two kinds. There's the individual item, and then there's pre-built. Pre-built means the package you received from the vendor actually includes code that we recognize as this is like a quiz. All of these like 10 or 12 questions go together as a test. Well, if your QTI includes that, then we can surface that in the pre-built table part of Aware, and your teachers can access entire quizzes in one go rather than having to find the items and add them one at a time. Vice versa is also true. Even if pre-builts are included, you can still use each individual item individually. So the permissions are broken up here so that you can have individual items at district, school, or teacher level, or pre-builts at district, school, or teacher level, or mix and match them. Pro tip here. When you're making a bank, don't check anything here until you've actually imported the items and had a chance to look them over. You really need to look over the items and make sure nothing is hinky because QTI is a pretty loose set of specifications. And even if they import correctly, there's no check on the content validity. There's no check that spelling was done correctly. There's no check that an answer was selected on every single question. So having eyeballs on all of that is really, really critical before you actually turn it on. So after you've started it, you've named it, you'll actually need to do your first import. Here you can actually click the choose file button or just click and drag the QTI package into that drop zone. And then make sure you read through these disclaimers on here on the page. You're allowed to load up to 5 files at one time, but please note that each file can only be up to 20 megabytes in size. There are some QTI packages out there that are way larger than 20 megabytes, but this file limit was put in place to safeguard against performance issues. There are some ideas that we have to maybe see if we increase that in the future, but for now, it is definitely 20 megabytes. So keep that in mind. If you have a package that's 128 megabytes, that needs to be broken up in some way before it can load. Once that package or packages have been started, you can check on their progress in the import log where you can see if they're successful and if you have individual items that have failed or have warnings. Like I said, the QTI format is got a lot of flexibility. And so you might see items fail, and failing typically means one of two things. Either the item had something unexpected in the way it was coded, or it was an item type that our system can't support. There are a lot of ways you can make items out there, and a good example right now that Eduphoria really wants to get the development done on this sooner rather than later, but drag and dropping onto images, for example. If your package includes a drag and drop item where you drag and drop onto an image, that's an item type we can't support yet, so that item will fail. And then there's the concept of has issues. Has issues means the import didn't fail, but there was something missing that we were expecting, and we had to take a guess as to what that value should be. Most commonly, that tends to be with constructor responses where we expect a min score and max score. And if that's not included, we say, hey, this one had an issue, and we set it to 0 and 1 automatically just so the item wouldn't fail. We also have the import log where you can get more details about the issues and failures. And you'll notice in this image, there's an export button towards the top left. This export can actually be sent to the vendor that sent you the QTI packages if you felt the need to talk with that vendor. Because like I mentioned before, items could fail, but we don't generally QA every single thing that comes through. And so we have to trust that you and the vendor might be able to work through things. And it's totally up to the vendor to decide if they're going to do that or not. So keep that in mind as you go through. Once your items are actually loaded in, then you get the opportunity to preview them with the questions, resources, and pre-builts tab. You have a lot of options here where you can delete an item if you don't like it before it goes out to your teachers. You have the option to edit or add a standard. Some packages don't include standards, and so you need to add that before it can go and surface in the system. And this is where you can actually like click on an item's ID, preview the item, and you get to check that question DOK, look for item validity, look for alignment, make sure an answer is included. You can view it as a student with that checkbox. What does it look like for them? And then keep going from there. Once a custom bank has been built with a QTI package, say the next year, new items come in, you get a new vendor, whatever, you can load more packages into each of those custom banks, and you have the option to either replace existing items or restore deleted items. Replace existing items is really helpful if you have items that are updated year over year by the vendor and you want the latest, most up to date, and you get to choose. Yes, replace the existing ones, or no, skip them, or ones that you've intentionally deleted because you didn't like the question. You can say, yeah, bring that one back in, or no, skip the ones I've already deleted. It won't bring them back in again. Lastly, once you've done all of the item management in the custom bank and you've set the security settings the way you want to so that they're visible the way you want to, you can then find the items when searching in Author by adding from a bank and then selecting custom banks as the bank type. Then those custom bank area, you actually have a custom bank filter so that if you've built 15 custom banks for whatever reason, you can also filter by those banks if you need to. Frequently asked questions about custom banks. Again, not going to get super detailed. I'm going to hit these real fast. Which vendors and QTI packages does Eduphoria support? We don't have a definitive list. Basically speaking, if the vendor gives you a QTI package that is version 2.1 or 2.2, we probably support it. And so that's really the check there is what is the QTI version and are they following that spec? If they do, we support it. How should the district handle failed items? That's completely up to you. We give you lots of options with the import log and exporting the error log if errors exist. But it's not something that we're likely to QA. It's likely something you'll need to work with the vendor. And if there are instances where something actually did go wrong in our system, that's where we'll step in and try to help out. Can I edit the imported questions? You cannot edit them in the custom bank space, but you can edit the question once it's on a test. It's the same way with like Teaks Bank or Teaks Ready and how those work now. Can the district have multiple banks for the district and teacher use? Absolutely. If you have a set of questions that you want that are math and you want it just for district, and you have a set of questions that are math and you want teachers to use those, make two different banks, set the permissions different ways. You cannot set them at individual question levels, but you can set them at the bank level. So just divide your questions as appropriate. How can I hide individual custom banks, pre-builts, etc.? Use those permissions on each individual bank. And like I said, you can't do it on individual questions or question sets, but you can do it on the entire custom bank you created as a whole. All right, last part for me with student support management, we've actually made some quality of life improvements and updates. The big thing here is we've added more subjects. You can now assign student supports for special ed, languages other than English, a generic elective, physical education, career and technical education, and we made one also just generic other subject that you could apply to as well. All of these are in addition to the subjects that have been around forever, like language arts, reading, writing, science, math, and social studies. That's going to assist with efforts related to assigning supports in those subject areas. In addition, it's also going to provide some much needed levels of differentiation in your assessment program as they relate to teacher incentive allotment or other programs with high fidelity. We've updated the user interface to the student support management for the district admins out there. Please note, the student profile experience is still the same. This right here is specific to where you do mass uploads and managing a lot of student supports all at one time. Now, when managing student supports, you get to look at everything all at once. You can apply filters to filter it down to particular student groups, ethnicities, schools, grade levels, or even contents and support types. And then once you've got that filtered down, you also have the option to export it so you can make changes via a spreadsheet. And we've added some cool functionality to the spreadsheet. The export spreadsheet here can also be used as a mass import. So filter it down to what you need or include every single student if you want. Tweak the spreadsheet, then use that for a mass import. Or optionally, if you just need to make like 8 changes because ARDS happened this week, hit the pencil next to the student's name once you have found them. And when you click that pencil, you get a window that looks like this, where I can just check the boxes for the subjects and supports that are needed. Click save. It'll make those edits right there without you having to find individual student profiles. Just as a note, we also updated and changed how the local template for student supports actually works. Previously, it used to be every kid was listed one time, and we had an endless list of columns where we repeated every support for every subject. We've changed it to be more in line with how other systems do supports, like TestHound, where now we list every single kid as a multiple times. And so, and each kid's listed with each individual subject on a individual row. And then we have the supports listed as columns just one time. And then we read the ones and zeros and blanks as always to decide if it should be on or off. Now, before I pass it off to Beacon for their updates, here's one last hit for Aware. Earlier in the spring, we actually released an update that allows test authors to select up to 2 calculators per test. This is a long-standing pain point for online testing, especially in districts where more than one middle school or high school had made different decisions. One of them used Desmos, another one used TI calculators, and when you do those common district assessments, you have like half of your kids using a calculator they're not familiar with. Now you can enable up to 2, one from each vendor, and then your kiddos can choose which calculator to use when they're in that question on your common district assessments. Now, we said do those webinars like I mentioned. Just want to plug those one more time. When we're looking at new features and best practices, go check out, especially the one for AI scoring and then from QTI to Test Day, where we actually talk about best practices, talk about data safety, district control, options for overriding, rationales, et cetera, on why things are set up the way they are. And the last thing I want to say before I hand it off to Kajisha, Aware has some changes in the next coming weeks that will go through a good chunk of the summer. We're updating the curriculum tree. If you've ever been an author and made a test and you have to do the click elementary, click fourth grade, click math to find the subject that you're looking for the standards, we're updating that. It's going to be a completely new, updated, and much easier experience. And we're going to be releasing those periodically as we get them complete throughout Aware. So be on the lookout for that. Nothing you need to worry about other than the user experience will be a little bit different, and it's going to be a lot better. And with that, I pass it off to Beacon. Go ahead, Kajisha.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. All right, so let's just take a second here and pause for those who do not know what Beacon is. This is our brand new lesson planning, curriculum management, and instructional analysis tool. We are building towards a product that enables districts to answer questions like, is our curriculum and instruction program driving positive student outcomes? Is our curriculum and instruction program aligned with our assessment program? Do teachers have the resources and guidance that they need to write plans and drive instruction? And do we have good practitioners and the necessary staff to support them? Beacon's lesson planner is easy and intuitive to teachers and flexible for the way that they plan. Our scope and sequence analysis tool helps administrators see holistically where they need to intervene, who they need to focus support on, and where they can make program level decisions based on pacing issues, assessment alignment issues, or instructional delivery. And with Beacon Staff Search, you can find the plans for any teachers you need at the campus or district level and support them within this natural lesson planning workflow. If any of that sounds like something that aligns with your district's C&I goals, please reach out to sales@eduphoria.net to express your interest in a demo and see what Beacon has to offer. So let's go ahead to the next slide so I can show you a little bit of some of the updates that we have come out with in the since January, essentially. So the first thing is customizable planners. So in Beacon, we have a landing page for teachers where they'll see the planners and the preps for their school year. As you can see in this screenshot, we have previous years as well. So if you get Beacon and you stay with us over time, you will have previous year planners where you can always access your preps from previous years and see those plans. On the actual screen here, we have little, I like to call them like a album cover, but some people also think they're like books on a shelf. Essentially, you just have your covers and you can choose a graphic and a color that speaks to you, speaks to that prep, and that way you can identify each one of them on their own. And teachers have complete customizability over this. So every teacher's planner will look different. Next, we have copy from prior year. So this is another one of those features that we came out with. After speaking with a lot of our districts who were early adopters of Beacon, we found that one of the biggest pain points from Forethought was when you copied your previous year into your new year, it would cause a lot of issues. All of the dates would be wrong. You'd have to shift all of your plans, and it was just a complete mess. And so now with Beacon, what we've decided to do is create a more intentional process for copying plans from a previous year. You'll actually just select on your planner what day you want to go look at in the previous year. You have a quick snapshot of what those plans look like. And if those plans match what you want to teach in the new year, you click on copy to, and it'll have whichever date in this screenshot. It's February 20, 2026. And so that way you're copying from a previous year into the new one. And once it's in that new year, you have complete control to edit it, customize it, you'll change it, differentiate it for the new students that you have. But instead of having to start from scratch every year, you can just pick up where you left off, essentially. Now here I'm showing, this is actually something that Jeremy Wagner shared with us, but a lot of districts, you guys can see this and immediately snoop out what it is. It's a YAG along with some assessment calendar stuff too. So this is what I like to call the old way of planning your instructional deadlines, setting up your assessment calendar. We try to make it look really pretty, but ultimately we've got tiny print, a lot of different colors, color coding that looks crazy. And we have, events like holidays, and every year we have to do this. We have to repeat it for every single subject and every grade level. And because this is manual work, you spend hours aligning all of these things and correcting errors from your first draft. And then when you're in the school year, you have to make changes, which then allows you to figure out, okay, if we have extra time in this unit, how do I switch duration for this unit? And you're going to have to go back to this document. And it's actually a lot for administrators and for teachers to keep up with. So what we have done in Beacon, and the next slide is going to be the what's next, and then I'll actually show you the pretty thing that correlates with that curriculum review document. So what we have updated is the course hub. So if you have Beacon, you are accustomed to these folders that have the unit titles, and then you'll have your resources and your lessons, and it's all laid out. But now what we're doing is we're updating it to be a year at a glance view. So we're going to have a calendar view along with a list of units view to show you your year at a glance. And what's currently in development is including dates for local assessments. So you'll also in that YAG be able to say, we have this test over this amount of time. And then you'll be able to see, are your units of instruction overlapping assessments? Did you actually teach what you're going to test before you test it? And it's going to enable a lot more conversations between the C&I department and the assessment department. So let's go ahead and look at the first thing. This is managing planning timelines. So before we give you this amazing tool of the YAG in your hands, you're going to be able to plan out when exactly are we curriculum planning, which is when curriculum coordinators and administrators go in to set up for the new year. And when are we allowing teachers to view the instructional calendar to start their lesson plans? So as a curriculum administrator, you know that you're setting up for the next year well in advance before your teachers are ready. And so this allows you to open up that new year calendar, set up your units, work with the assessment department to decide on what days you want to do certain things. And then when all of that is done, you can allow your teachers to start planning. And then they'll see the brand new year and the way that you have it already planned out for them once you enable it. So that's the new thing that's coming out. It's not out yet, but it will be out soon. And then this is the beautiful year at a glance view. This is the calendar view. So this is something that happens automatically. So once you decide what units you want and the start dates and the duration, Beacon actually builds out this YAG for you, the colors and the way that you can see the date ranges. All of that is automatically done. And so you're not having to go through and use your antiquated processes of creating a spreadsheet, highlighting things, moving things around. And then this is also where assessments will live. So you'll see assessment markers alongside your units as well. And this is for one course. And this happens year over year. And you're going to have curated YAGs for each school year as you continue through in Beacon. All right, and then this is our call to action. So with those last two features that I showed you, they are dependent on having an instructional calendar ready in management. So that's in system management before you're able to then choose to turn it on for curriculum planning or teacher planning. So if you are not the one that actually can change your instructional calendar or set up a new one, I recommend that you reach out to your district's Eduphoria manager and then confirm whether or not your 26-27 school year calendar is ready. If not, you can go ahead and update it or have them update it, and then you'll be able to make use of these brand new features. And that is all I have. Oh, I actually have one more thing. So the product board portal, this is a brand new thing that Beacon specifically is spearheading. We want to hear from you. So this is a way that you can give us feedback. You can vote on your most needed features, and you can also see what we're working on. And so it's a really transparent way for you to see what's up next, what's in progress, and what has been released. So if you are ready to be a partner on this product with us, please make use of the product board portal. And that is all for me. So I will hand it off to Shanna for Strive.
Okay, so much information, you guys. You're probably on overload. So just a reminder before I start talking about Strive that we are recording this. You will get copies of this presentation. So, okay, so Strive. Over the last year or so, our development team has been rebuilding the foundation of Strive. If you want to click to the next one, we have some. There we go. We have some exciting news. It's much more than a visual update or just a few feature enhancements. We have completely redesigned the underlying architecture of the application, including how the evaluation data is stored, how it's processed, and accessed throughout the system. So, as a part of the work, we've rebuilt the form and process infrastructure. We've modernized the platform architecture. We've updated virtually every evaluation API in the system. And we've created an entirely new data table structure, and it's designed to better support our scalability and flexibility and performance as we're moving forward, especially with our future innovation. So this transition that we're doing, it positions us to deliver a much more modern and sustainable experience, and giving us the ability to help support you with things like the TIA project and things. So, but because the system stores data differently, it's so important, we have to officially migrate all the existing data to the new table structure. So we want to ensure a smooth transition. We want our districts to archive their current evaluation processes and data before the migration occurs. So that's why I want to pause really long on this screen and talk about this. It does say up here, archive by June 15th. This is a call out. I know, and we've heard districts say, but we don't archive until July. What are the impacts of that? It is extremely important that we do this process because in order to transition to the new table structure, in order to close out one year and get to the next, we really need to do it. And we want to give you time to build your processes and the new forms, make sure everything is ready for the next year. So that's really why we're trying to stay really tight on this timeline. I want to reiterate or emphasize that when you archive, Your existing data will remain fully intact. All historical records are preserved. The archive information will continue to exist in the original data structure, but the new evaluation activity moving forward will exist in the new table structure. So we've got to find that line that we're going to say, okay, we need to stop and then start for the new year. So having said that, your data will, there's not a fear of losing any data. Your data will effectively be in two places. Your archive data will be stored in the current structure. The new future data will be stored in the new structure. So archiving is basically what will allow us to cleanly separate from this year the historical evaluations to the new evaluations and preserve that data integrity. Sorry. Okay, so our goal is just to make it as seamless as possible. We want to protect your evaluation records. Again, we understand that evaluation data is very important to districts, and we want to be intentional as we're trying to do this migration. We want to make sure that the integrity of your data is intact. So having said that, I will reiterate, it is extremely important, if you want to click to the next page, the next slide there, to archive by June 15th. If you have any questions about how to archive, we do have a link at the bottom, archiving article, and we also have a video, and I encourage you to reach out to support@eduphoria.net. Our support team can help you, our trainers can help you. It's just a very important part in this process, so we can migrate and get to the good stuff, which is on the next slide. Okay, so this is a sneak peek of where we are. So once we do that migration, we will be able to release our new features that we've been working on. So we have a new form builder. This is a quick little demo of how easy it will be in the future to build a new form. If any of you have worked with our existing template builder in Strive, you know that it is not easy. It's not intuitive at all. So as you can see here, this is drag and drop. It's a much more intuitive experience. I have an example on the next slide of just what the different question types might look like. This is an example. We have a section here. It's kind of small, can't really see, but of the different question types. If you'll go ahead and click on the next slide, I'll say, one thing that we did do in the migration. So we're trying to match your existing templates that you have created. If you have, certain questions, once we migrate, we're trying to match that. But we also want to bring additional options and features to you in your forms. So an example here is that instead of the group with the checkboxes, now we have an option to create a multiple selection question. So you can have multiple selection, or if you want to do single selection, you can do that. Again, in our current template builder, or the legacy template builder, which we're going to call that now because we're going to kick that one to the curb. If you wanted to have like a yes/no question, you actually had to build that in a matrix question type. So now, if you wanted to have just a single select, you could build it in this specific item type. So we're super excited about that. The next slide, we have also addressed a huge need in our reflection forms. You've always been able to have interactive two-way communication with the evaluator and the teacher, but we've had the huge request to be able to do that in additional forms. So we are releasing an option to do that. Now, in any form, you can have two-way communication. So this is a great example for being able to have coaching embedded within forms, so you can have back and forth communication. So again, super excited about that. When we release the initial release with the form builder, we will have some fast follows beyond that. We have another drop-down question coming, and then also some enhancements to the matrix that will allow you to include rubric descriptors and add evidence to each of the columns as well, or not columns, the rows, sorry, each dimension. Okay. And the last thing, I think this is great. So once you build your form, you can also drag and drop your questions and put them in order. Again, it's just such a great experience. So we're super excited to get this out there. All right. So in addition, next slide, we are updating. Sorry, if you'll transfer to the next slide. I'm not the 51. Am I in a different? Yeah. Slide 51. I think you might have gone. There we go. There we go. Okay. Process management. Okay. So currently, when you build your we call them appraisee types. So when you build your appraisee type, you go into the evaluation setup and you click on appraisee type. So when this releases, we will have a new place for you to go and build your process. And in the bottom right-hand corner, you see there's a space. It's under the evaluation settings and it's called process management. So when you go into the process management, you'll notice it looks just like form management. We've had a lot of requests for that after we released form management. We had a lot of people say, "Oh, we love that. Can we do this also with the appraisee type?" So here you go. We have new process management here. So you'll have a very similar experience to that. Now, if you'll switch to 52, building a process, it's a much more better. It's a much more friendly experience, very intuitive experience. But the thing that I love the most about this is that it will surface on the very clear way the due dates and the requirements. So when you click on your process, and it's in actually the next slide actually shows that when you're clicking through your process, just a quick view of them, you'll be able to see those due dates and go in and update those right there without having to dig 2 or 3 clicks in. So I love that. We do have some future enhancements coming both to the form builder and to the process builder. So again, these are the reasons that we want to have everybody archive, do the migration, and get these new features out so we can be expanding these and adding some further enhancements before we start the new school year. So having said all of that, this is going out. There will be minimal impact to the end users. This is mainly going to impact the appraisal administrators, the people that build your processes, build the forms. But there will be some minor enhancements to the evaluators when they're filling their forms out. Nothing major. More than anything, it's just going to be a streamlined experience when they're clicking through the forms. We hope to make it a little bit better, having collapsible steps and things like that, or collapsible questions. So the primary impact on these releases will be for the appraisal administrators. So anyway. That's all I have. Any final
Awesome.
questions?
Yeah, so let's open the floor for any questions for Aware, Strive, War Beacon. There is one question posted by Kelly. I believe this one's for you, Shanna. The overhaul of these programs is impressive. I can tell you have put thought and time and money into all these changes and additions. Oh, very cool. Yeah, go ahead, Shanna.
Well, I was going to say I think that's to everything, but I to everything we put out there, and I agree. I think it is huge, and I will say that you guys are a big part of that. All of your feature requests that you put in, all of your questions. I mean, we are here to try to make things better for your life. So definitely, that's my input on that. That was really thank you for that because it is very true.
All right, we have a couple of questions in the Q&A. Jim asks, will our current appraisee types remain or will we need to rebuild them?
Great question. Great question. They will remain. Everything will remain intact. That is the part of the migration that we really put a lot of thought into is we want all of your existing templates, like all of your forms that are in form management. After we migrate, they will all be there. When you open them up, they will open in the new builder. The same thing with the process, your appraisee types. When you click on process management, all of your existing appraisee types will be there in process management. So that was a good question. Yeah.
I think you actually answered this next one too, but just to make sure, same general question, but with the existing templates, those and
Yeah.
frameworks.
Yeah, the existing, yeah, the templates, everything will transfer. And, again, that because we have been very intentional on the timing of this, and we wanted to make sure that we let you finish out your year, and kind of try to button up all your evaluations. We have plenty of time to be testing all of this when we do the migration and making sure. And so all of the templates, that exist now will be migrated. Now, one thing I will say, we are building in a kind of a little alert system. If any of you have built a template, I know I've done the same thing. There are some things to try to make the template builder work like you want, and to make it, appear in a certain way. You might use different question types in a different way. So we are trying to match, and we're trying to assume what you had in mind when you created that template. If it's different, if those templates come out and they look a little different, we might have a little alert just for you to review it. So that would be the only thing. Everything will move over, but if you see that little alert symbol, you might want to just open it up. It's all going to be there, but you might want to just review, make sure it looks how you want it to look and everything. So yeah, another good question.
Last one, I believe, in Strive, is there a way to be able to distinguish staff members that have the exact same name?
This has definitely been a conversation coming up. This and has been a feature request. The only way especially on the staff page right now, you can, and actually your staff members can upload an image. So they could upload an image to their, that little circle that has their initials. There is a place in the management section that you can, under the staff profile, that they can actually upload an image. And in the profile section, the teachers or the staff member can upload in there as well. That's not an ideal fix for this, I will say. It is an option for now. And we are looking at ways in the future to distinguish on the staff cards. So we do have that on our radar, but for now, you could consider the uploading the images.
All right, I believe that's it for now. So if you have a question that you didn't get the chance to post or we didn't get the chance to answer, don't forget email training@eduphoria.net. We can get those questions answered for you. With that, we really want to thank you all for spending some of your afternoon with us. We know you're busy, end of year things are mounting. And if you're just watching the webinar after the fact, watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to listen to us talk about what's new across Eduphoria. Y'all have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.